Good afternoon, Matt. How are you? Welcome to this recording, which we're doing for accountants and small businesses and medium-sized businesses all over Australia.
Hi,
How are
Peter.
you today?
Thanks for good, mate. Good. Thanks for having me on.
You're the chair of the Crowdfunding Industry Association of Australia. What's the expectations of crowdsource funding in Australia? What is it?
Yeah. Well, look, I think that's a really early stage but exciting time for the industry. It's not entirely new, this concept of crowdfunding particularly, and also the equity stream to crowdfunding, but it's very early days for a new regime to bring that to everyday Australians. But if I can just take a little step back, CFIA is a membership organisation for all types of crowdfunding. People are often confused between the equity side of crowdfunding, which is very much a fact-driven financial product, and the well-known or promoted rewards and donation-based crowdfunding. So those may have an interest, certainly in the terms of the reward product pre-sale model for accountants and small business, but really the exciting and innovative area and new outcome from a fairly drawn-out and lengthy process with politics. But what we've got is a equity crowdfunding model which proprietary companies can use, and that's very much a game changer and early days. You can't really call it angel investing, but you can't really find a better way to quickly get people into the mindset of where that type of investment product fits. You know, it's not an IPO, but there's elements to it that are offering to the public. And really, what if you boil it back down, is you've taken an early stage company and given them access to a public market within a capped and controlled regime for licensees. So, with the proprietary model, provided that the offer and the conditions are right, that's really accessible to your entire audience, even from an investment perspective, but also certainly for clients and businesses looking at scaling rapidly and having a really exciting prospect, that they could consider this as one of the channels for future funding.
Okay, very interesting. So, who is the CFIA?
So the CFIA is, it's a good Aussie backstory, because it was really lots of individuals who are interested in the space who'd followed it. We had really the earliest regime for something like crowdfunding, which was a class order concession, which I'm sure, your background familiar. It wasn't particularly great, but it did allow some retail investors into early stage companies, and that process over 20 years, and then there were various government inquiries, led lots of people to be interested. And obviously there's also the other parts of crowdfunding, which are really inspired by mobile phone adoption and by cloud computing and the access to broader audiences. So these forces really brought everyone to the realization that there's going to be a lot of change and specializations in this area. And we just put together a not-for-profit limited public company, limited by guarantee, so one member, one vote, and brought the parties together. And we've done lots of work with the ATO, with Fair Trading, ACCC, but also with members in terms of actually how to get a campaign off the ground and some of the things to think about. It's actually a lot harder than it looks. When it works, it's a beautiful thing indeed. But so some of that support network, but also to protect the future of the industry, and to say, well, look, there are some quite big question marks in terms of there's any big change like this. So to try to actually bring the coalition of the willing, if you like, to doing it the right way, and to preempt some of the potential problems. Now, I'm not going to say we've solved everything, but there's a solid purpose there, and it's really volunteer based.
Okay.
But I think we've punched above our weight in a few areas and look to continue that.
Well, I'm sure on behalf of the people who are going to be watching these recordings, I would wish you well in this whole endeavour, because I think crowdsource funding is a very important component in the financing of small and medium-sized businesses. So your organisations are going to be in the driver's seat in making sure this occurs properly in Australia. So good luck in all your
cheers, mate. I
endeavours.
appreciate that. I'll just put in a little plug, if that's all right. We've got
Yeah.
our annual conference videos coming out on the website soon. So in terms of giving back some of that learning and education materials, they'll be freely available, and I'd encourage people to jump on around about middle of next month to access that material, and feel free to share it, and also to look to links for training guides on equity crowdfunding, and upcoming various educational pieces or reference points, like even, have you heard of a crowdfunding accelerator? So there's quite a bit of action in this space, and certainly a good touch point is cfinstitute.org, which is the website, cfinstitute.org.
cfinstitute.org. Okay, that's very interesting. A colleague of mine was at your conference in December in Sydney and was very appreciative of the matters that were discussed and the discussions that were held. So obviously I would recommend to everyone watching this webinar that they take up your invitation to log on to that site and view that material. Because I think the more people know about how all this functions and works, the healthier this industry is going to be. And obviously the audience we've got is primarily accountants, bookkeepers and advisors, together with small business and medium-sized enterprise operators. And they need to know more about it to appreciate the role that the intermediaries have to play and other people.
Well, and there's certainly an opportunity there internationally. In the UK, the crowdfunding industry represents about a third of the venture market.
Yeah.
So and look, I'd argue that their regulatory process was a bit rushed and has quite a few gaps compared to ours. So in terms of people with an interest in growth, clients or innovative companies, it's certainly something that I see as a progressive part of any consulting firm, be that financial services or marketing or video production. There's lots of different industries that interweave in this area. So it's exciting times. Yeah,
very exciting. So is the association happy with how crowdfunding has proceeded so far? Is there enough crowd interested, and is there enough companies interested in trying to raise capital?
Yeah, look, I think it's one of those things where the education for more than 65 years has been very much buyer beware, and there's a degree of, if you haven't got a particular product through a particular channel, that this is something that you should really worry about. And the particularly around equity crowdfunding, there are substantial statutory requirements to notify investors of you are looking at an alternative product here. It's not through the full regulatory process. So look, this is actually fully in line with my understanding of how this would roll out in Australia. But I think there were certain parts of the industry where there was the assumption of, if the shackles are off, everyone will turn up for the show. So I think the same thing happened in other parts of the crowdfunding fraternity, particularly with rewards campaigns. It's literally the proof of the pudding with the early adopters getting success, and then that creating a general momentum for the industry. From a regulatory perspective, again, I think there was an expectation that this was really unshackling a lot of pent-up demand, and that there was going to be sort of almost an explosion or uncontrollable set of circumstances to come from that, and that the rollout has been more in line with the way investors deal with real money transactions. So that's not to say that there isn't a potential for explosive momentum, but it comes off the back of very similar decision-making processes that, in my view, anyway, that would apply in a lot of other marketplaces. So just literally saying crowd doesn't mean that you get one there. So there is room for mistakes to be made by the industry to cost the participants, but there's also plenty of upside, I think, for us now that we've actually gone past those perceptions into reality, that we can earn some more relief, whether that comes in the nature of the cap amount, or whether it comes in the nature of the how the documentary process needs to be drawn together, or the types of companies participate, that sort of thing. But yes, early days. So we'll look forward to some further discussions on that, and hopefully on the back of plenty of good news.
Thanks very much, Matt. I'm sure the accounting industry and the smaller and medium-sized business market do wish the intermediaries in particular every success in this endeavour, because I honestly believe, as an accountant, there are a lot of businesses out there that can benefit from crowdsourced funding, equity raising, and having a viable market and an infrastructure in place that can help them achieve that is very important. So congratulations on your association members' efforts so far, and we look forward to catching up maybe later in the year to see how everything's going, and hopefully there's going to be some good numbers and some good success stories that we're able to talk about.
No, absolutely. And I'll just leave you on one point, which is that that whilst the process involves fundraising, I think when it's done right, that you're actually dealing with the bigger issue for those growth businesses, which is connecting with customers or getting customer advocacy. So if we can actually connect those type of business opportunities, then we really will earn our spot quickly, I think. So
it's very important to have customer support all the time, not just when you're trying to raise capital, but I know what you're talking about. It's very important that businesses harness that group of people who, in effect, pay for their services, don't they? So if they're then prepared to become investors as well, that's very good, and will help those companies to survive and prosper in the future. So thanks very much for your time today, and I wish the Industry Association every success.
Cheers for that. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Bye.